Welcome back, Red Spotters! I'm the Red Spotlight Podcast. I'm your host, Alexis, joined by David Francisco for our final installment of our segment series for the Disney Plus Marvel Studios series starring Oscar Isaac. This is Moon Knight. Of course, this is the final installment of what is, I would say, pretty obvious at this point, and was always intended to be the first of more stories to tell with this series. We'll call it season finale, right? This is the 6th episode called Gods and Monsters. As always, we will give our impressions of the episode at the top, and then we will get into all of the events that happened in a scene-by-scene breakdown of the episode. All that and more here on Red Spotlight Entertainment. So, let's not waste any time and get straight to it. A reminder, of course, that Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness does open in theaters this week, and of course our team will be all over that, and stay tuned for reviews and commentary on Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, however that turns out to be. So I myself have no idea how I'm gonna feel about it, and the more reviews that come out, the more confused I am. So I guess we're gonna see how that ends up happening, and whenever David gets a chance to see it, we'll also get his thoughts on it, on I believe how it's gonna work. And then as far as Miss Marvel is concerned, it is gonna be an interesting I don't know exactly when Miss Marvel comes. It's not, is it this month or is it next month, David? Do you know if it's, I don't know. I know it's supposed to, at some point, it's gonna kind of run up with Obi-Wan Kenobi, the other Disney Plus series.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, I know it's supposed to go around the same time, but I don't know how long after Obi-Wan. So
yeah,
so it'll probably be
we'll
in June,
see. Well,
for sure.
All right, then I guess we'll stay with June, and yeah. So for those who are wondering when these recaps will come back, that's when they'll come back. But as always, David, I am very much surprised when we get to the end of these particular recaps. Maybe it's because the episodes aren't that many. But then again, it's like 6 weeks. Fuck, 6 weeks already with Moon Knight. It's crazy. Anyway, so we had the season finale. And I think that as far as concerns are concerned, I think as far as like what we were concerned about, I feel I kind of made that pretty clear last week about what I didn't necessarily want from this episode. And look, ultimately speaking, what I said last week, I think is kind of what came to fruition, which is, I think on some level, what I expected. Now, I'm very much like in a space where I don't know, ultimately, because I think when I look at the DNA of this season finale, it is hard for me to distinguish this from any of the other season finales of these Marvel Disney Plus series, in that they all hit the same beats. They all go for the same things, and they all kind of have some fun, good moments in them. And they all seem to be pretty much just climactic action and very little else to be there. And I said last week that these do vary, right, in execution. Like, there are definitely some that are far better than others, right? And again, it's like, I don't mean to sound like disappointed, because at the end of the day, I very much still liked all the finales except for one of them, I think. Like Hawkeye and WandaVision and Falcon. No, I did not like Loki's. But that one I think was different because Loki's finale was different in that it was just one guy talking at the screen the entire time. That was about it. And it wasn't that compelling either, so that's why that would be an issue. Here, it's also in a different league in and of its own, because here's the thing. As far as like moments are concerned and how this particular season wrapped up, I don't think there is a level of disappointment that touches some of the other letdowns that happened in the other finales, shall we say, of the Disney Plus series. I think my biggest issue with the episode is that it felt rushed, but then again, I mean, not that like it felt rushed, like, oh, there were like, there was too much that they couldn't like do in this episode. It turns out no, but at the same time, it felt like we were just like, all right, we're going. Now here's the big action set piece. Okay, now it's done. All right. Yeah, I just watched it, by the way, again for the second time. I liked it, to be clear. I liked a lot of it, and I liked ultimately the resolution that we have here with many of the characters. There are some pretty cool things that happened throughout the episode. In particular, with something I didn't see coming with Layla and the goddess Tawadet. Is that her name? Mm-hmm. Tawadet? Okay. We see some gods on God action. I never thought I'd say that in my life, but there it is. We had that. And we had, yeah, it was a lot. There was a lot more action as we expected and predicted would be the case here. I don't know. I'm kind of conflicted because I liked it, but I still felt like, oh, by the way, there was some great moments, obviously, with all of the actors, but I still felt as if, I don't know. I felt like there was a little something missing, and I can't help that maybe it was a bit rushed. And I'm also not convinced. Now, I can be talked into thinking this way, but I'm also not overly taken with and what I mean by that, I'm not overly impressed with the way some of the action scenes were shot. Like, I think it was a lot better, the action, I want to say, than what it was before, right? Like, because I don't even remember what it was before.
The action was for sure a lot better.
A lot better. A lot better. So, again, considerable marks for improvement. I think for me, overall, what this episode really solidified is that, and I think this could be the overall big success of this series, is I love both Mark and Steven. And I want to see more of that character. Mm-hmm. Hell yeah, I want to see more of that character. And fuck yes, I want season 2. I don't know what it is in particular about this show that kind of speaks to me. But I honestly, look, when you have a show that has such a great protagonist that anchors the series, that can do a lot for you. And when you really like this character that's leading this show, it's going to make you want to check out any story that he or she appears in. I don't know. I guess there is a conclusion of sorts, not giving anything away, for Harrow here, as we expected it to be the case, although not as like beat for beat as we thought it would be. And I'm wondering if, well, I guess his usefulness did come to an end when it came to what happened. But I'm curious to see if, in the long run, it wasn't a missed opportunity to keep him around. Although what purpose he had left, I'm not sure. Yeah, I think that's kind of where I'm at. Otherwise, again, the visual effects, for the most part, pretty great. I love the staging. Yeah, honestly, pretty freaking great in some areas. So again, this is where the money went, as you said last week. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I mean, look, it's a show with likable people, and some interesting stuff. I would have wished maybe that we would also have, I think part of what was missing for me in this episode is, again, the whole thing, for the most part, was action. We had that wonderful scene in the beginning with the reuniting of Steven and Mark, and that was really, really well delivered. But at the same time, when I'm thinking about other aspects of the season that didn't necessarily get any kind of conclusion, especially with how much time we spent with it, this episode did not address anything with like the lingering issues with Mark, Steven, and Layla. Because when we left them before Mark got shot, like at that point, Layla had found out that, oh yeah, her dad kind of got killed inadvertently because of Mark, and the only reason Mark even introduced himself to her life was because he felt bad. And they never bring that back up, and they never have a conversation about it. And I think the finale would have been a perfect place to have had a resolution for that, or to have that been addressed at all. And it wasn't. And I kind of needed that. I kind of wanted that. Otherwise, I guess we're going to address that in season 2. But I feel that that was kind of a big thing to maybe have here. So yeah, I may sound like really down on it. It's because I really wanted so much for the quality of like the last 2 weeks to stay up to par with it. And again, the action was fun. It was exciting in moments. Don't get me wrong. But I just want more. You know, I just want more, not so much action, but or like set pieces, but just thematic resolutions to a lot of these arcs that have happened. And it, when you think about like, well, there was some, to me, there were a couple of things that were missing here. But then a post-credit scene happens that reveals a pretty big thing that, again, if that post-credit scene didn't happen, then you have to go back and look at a bunch of clues that were laid, like in several of the episodes, and you're like, well, why were they teasing? Okay, whatever. And you also have to question at some point, like, okay, these are 2 times now that both Steven and Mark have realized, wait a minute, neither of us were driving at the wheel, and they don't question it. I know. It's like, it's just, that's a nitpick. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Like overall, at the end of the day, I'm happy with this show. I'm happy for most of, if not everything it did. But it did fall. Again, I'm not saying it's like anywhere near as like disappointing as some of the other ones. I think as far as like disappointments are concerned, this one had the least amount of them. But there are some similarities in the way that all of these finales consistently fail to hit the mark. You know how I just mentioned with the whole Layla thing and there not being a resolution with her father, and then with Mark, well, it kind of reminds me of, what's his name? Bucky having the big moment with that old man just be shortchanged. Like he walks in and he shuts the door and the camera pans away and it's like, whoa. We were promised a moment like we needed that moment to close up, for him to get closure and for us to receive closure as well. I'm talking about Falcon and the Winter Soldier here. And they, okay. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at ultimately, with Moon Knight. But again, ultimately, I love this show. So what do you think, David, as far as the episode is concerned?
I really liked it. I actually didn't have a problem with the pacing. I thought it was fine. I kind of expected everything. I wasn't surprised with the Layla and the Tawaret thing. I thought that was...
You saw it coming? I didn't see it coming at all.
Yeah, as soon as Tawaret was like, yeah, I'll talk to Layla, and I was like, she's gonna ask if she can be her avatar. Like I knew right away. And so I saw it coming. I was waiting for it too. Like I was like, as soon as they talked to each other, I'm like, oh my god. But yeah, and then the whole Layla and Mark thing. I mean, yeah, for sure, we should have gone like a little conversation between the two. But I think ultimately the big question for me is whether or not she's still going to be Tawaret's avatar. That's, for me, my big question.
I feel like so. I don't think that's a question, man. This is Marvel we're talking about here. Layla got a great costume. Yeah. There was a wonderful moment where she was identified as like, are you an Egyptian superhero? That's not going to go away. Like that was too much. That was too big of a moment. And she had too grand of a debut. I mean, honestly, she worked the hell out of that costume. Yes. Again, if there's one thing the MCU shows have over-delivered on, it is definitely the costumes. Like, seriously, they're very, very well done.
My one I actually had 3 little nitpicks on the show. One of them was that Harold didn't get a costume. Like, why not?
Yeah.
I thought that was a missed opportunity. I feel like you could have gotten him like armor or something that looked like crocodile scales or something. Like, you could have made him look badass. Come on. Actually, that one line that they said, if she's an Egyptian superhero, I kind of wish they didn't add that line. I wish it was just no dialogue between the two, and like the girl was just like, "Oh my gosh, it's like she's so badass."
Yeah, it wasn't subtle, was it? It was pretty freaking direct.
Or at the very least, I thought maybe what they could have done is the girl said, "Are you an Egyptian goddess?" And then that could have gotten a laugh from Layla, and she would have been like, "Nah, I'm just." I'm just a regular human being or something like, or she could have said like, I'm a superhero or something, Yeah. I think that would have been cool too.
Yeah, that moment, like, for however, like, good it will do for people to see themselves from that part of the world represented, and I'm happy for that. And, of course, the people who make the show as well, to bring that, obviously, it felt, while the intention behind it is very much well and good, it did feel like one of those moments where, like, the writer stopped everything for this moment. And this is the best way you could. It didn't feel organic. It felt like, okay, well, let's push pause here and address the moment.
Yeah.
And there are far better ways to have, like, again, the direction could have stepped in here and like done different takes as to how they could have done this. It definitely stuck out. That's for sure.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's just a little nitpick that could have been better. At least for me. I can't remember my third one. Not sure. I'll remember later. What was the other thing you mentioned? You mentioned Layla and Mark. What was the other thing that you thought wasn't addressed? Oh,
I think that was a big part of it.
The third personality. As to yeah, that one actually I don't mind it, mostly because there's not really much they can do. It seems like what's the other one? Was it Jack or something? Or
the name? Jake.
Yeah. Jake. Okay. It seems like only he'll come out whenever he wants to. Like it almost seems like he kind of has full control of them, in a way. But also, though, I think it is addressed kind of in that Mark and Steven are still tying themselves to the bed. Like, if there wasn't a third personality, why would they still be doing that?
Well, okay, that didn't occur to me. And that was a question I had. Like, we end the show, as far as Mark and Steven are concerned, with them still tying themselves to the bed. And that didn't necessarily make sense. But I guess what you're saying is they've caught on to something not being right. And so they're still tying themselves to the bed. That's why they're doing it that way. That's why they're doing it, because they feel something is off. Is that what you think? That's how you're reading it? Yeah,
that's what I assumed.
Okay. Because at first I was like, what the fuck? I wasn't too sure about
I mean, I did think that too at first, like, why are they still tying themselves? But then I thought about the third person, that Jake. Jake, and I was like, okay, maybe that could be it. They know there's someone else in there that they don't want to take a chance at.
Okay. Yeah, I really wish that another negative. Not so much in this episode, but I would say across all 6 episodes, and I think this is something that could have been benefited if they had just even 2 more episodes, is I wanted to see more about Harrow. Like, a lot of the things that we know is what he says, but I think it would have been so much, like, cooler if we had actually... Not to see his backstory for the sake of seeing his backstory, but to get us a villain with an actual, like, philosophy that wasn't just, oh, we're just gonna kill people preemptively. And like, we had one conversation about like his philosophy, and I feel like it was a bit of a missed opportunity to not go deeper into that. And I feel like if you would have gone deeper into it, I would have cared more about him and the overall like struggle and the climax that happened here. So I would say that's somewhat of a missed opportunity in this series. Do you feel there were other missed opportunities? Not so much perhaps in the finale, but across the show. I know one of the things that you and I have been, I would say, fairly critical, is the violence, or shall we say lack thereof. And the only reason we've been critical of that was because they were marketing themselves as the most violent MCU's anything. And now we've seen the whole thing, and I don't know what they were talking about.
Yeah. Like, even in the final fight, you know, you got Layla slashing dudes. But, like, I'm still questioning, are they dead or not? Like, is she just, you know, did she just cut them?
It didn't even occur to me she was slashing anybody. I think she was just slapping them.
Yeah, she had swords. I'm like, and she was cutting through, like, their guns and all that. So, like, there shouldn't be a question. Like, are they getting killed or not? It's, I don't know. Yeah. The violence is...
Yeah. Okay. Where do you think this particular finale ranks among the other finales for Hawkeye, Loki, The Falcon and Winter Soldier, and WandaVision? I'm gonna say this is tough. I think it's the best one.
Yeah, I was thinking that too.
Yeah, I think it's the best one easily because, like I was saying in my like earlier comments, it has the least amount of problems and not much letdown. Whereas the other ones have some problems and some pretty big letdowns as far as characters are concerned. It's tough for me because the WandaVision finale is messy, definitely, but the scenes with Wanda and Vision as they separate and say goodbye is still some of the best material, anything that has come out of the MCU, movies or shows. So that's why it's tough for me, where like it definitely packed the emotion, whereas everything else thematically kind of fell apart in WandaVision, I mean, the last episode. But here in Moon Knight, you did have a little bit of wonderful like emotion with, you know, Mark and Steven at the beginning. But then it all just kind of like was, the rest of it was action. But it was, I think it ended up delivering for the most part. So I'm going to say right now, objectively, I will say this is the best finale. You know what? I'll just go ahead and put it in my number one. Yeah, I'll put it at number one. It still suffers from some of the similar issues, but nowhere near to the extent as the other one. So I would say... I would put this at the top of it.
Yeah, I think I agree. This might be the best one. Like you mentioned, WandaVision has some problems. Particularly for me, I feel like the fights could have been a lot better. I feel like the one thing that like I'll praise Moon Knight is that there was a lot of stuff that was set up and paid off in the fights, of Moon Knight. Whereas with WandaVision, I feel like you could have done a whole lot more to kind of give these little payoffs. And then the other finale that I actually really liked was, I guess, Hawkeye. Mostly just because by the end of it, I did believe Hawkeye and Kate Bishop are like best friends, I guess you could say, by the end of the show, and I really liked their partnership. That thing was built up right. But Moon Knight was better with Steven and Mark. So yeah, I think for sure Moon Knight probably is the best finale out of all the MCU shows. Or Disney Plus shows.
No. Yeah. But I say this all the time. But I really mean it. So when I say it, listen, guys. And I know I'm very much like, you know, preaching to the choir here, and I'm very much a shill that gets paid anytime I mention Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. But I don't think anything the Disney Plus series, as far as season finales are concerned, I don't think they touch a single one of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s 7 finales. They had 7 season finales, and all of them over-delivered on general hype, excitement, and execution of not just action, but jam-packed with gut-punch levels of emotion. All of them. To me, the season finales of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. are some of like the perfect examples of what you want out of a season finale. Now, again, I'm not saying the show's perfect or even the finales themselves are like perfect in every single way. I just mean in this one specific area. Everything you want out of a TV season finale, I think S.H.I.E.L.D. had. And they consistently delivered it in a way where I feel some of that's missing here. I'm not saying Moon Knight particularly. I mean like the overall Disney Plus series. But yeah, and there exist people out there who refuse to watch the show no matter what happens. Okay. All right. Well, that's your loss. Anywho, David, let's get into the breakdown. Mm-hmm. So, if I'm not mistaken, we start off this week catching up with what happened immediately after Mark Steven was shot by Harrow. Harrow gets the amulet, I believe, or whatever it was that held Ammit from the body. And then Harrow leaves the scarab, I guess because he no longer needs it. Mm-hmm. I guess he just forgot about Layla, huh? He just left the damn scarab on the body, to which Layla, when she realizes that Mark Steven is like fucking dead, then she uses it to go and search, or not search, but to follow basically Harrow's people to her own endgame. And on the way, Harrow's already killing people. The border patrol of some sort stop them. They kill them off. Layla is in their group. She's about to make her move. Her, like, I guess, Hail Mary to kill him however she can. Mm. When she is interrupted or intercepted, shall we say, from Tawadit, using corpses to communicate, which is pretty hilarious. And convinces her to back off because Mark Steven or Mark is coming back or something or some sort. She backs off her plan from killing Harrow, but she remains with their group to see where it goes. And at this point, we go to the realm of the gods, the pyramid, right? Yeah. We see Harrow's people basically force themselves in to the temple, which is the source of all these gods' power. And again, man, these gods, how weak, how pathetic. Like, what a great impersonation of, like, feckless corporate Democrats that run the country right now. That can't, like, again, these are the people who, on some level, mean well, but they can't get out of their own way. And so somebody has to go out of their way and remove them from the equation. These idiots sealed up the one guy that was trying to, like, prevent so much, like, death and destruction from happening. And then Harrow just walks up and, like, yeah, try and stop me. And then he fucking kills them. He just removes them out of the way. Yeah. And I'm like, wow. Mm-hmm. You guys sucked. Mm-hmm. And I'm glad you're dead. I'm sorry. Mm-hmm.
I kind of wish we would have gotten a bit more of a fight between them, just because I'm curious. Like,
there wasn't a fight; they just cut away, right?
Yeah, no, yeah, they got instantly killed. But I mean, I would have been curious as to like what exactly their power sets are. But I mean, I guess future seasons, maybe they get new avatars or something. I don't know.
Well, my impression was that those avatars weren't the only ones. I thought the gods themselves died, because this is the thing. Later on in the episode, like, well, spoilers now, right? Not to what it, but Amit dies. Like, she's killed. I mean, she's imprisoned again somewhere else, but she's also she just dies straight up. There's also a moment near to where we are right now in this breakdown where she has Khonshu pinned, and she's basically about to deliver a death blow, or the suggestion of a death blow. So I think that implies, well, these gods aren't indestructible. Like, I think the fact that Khonshu was about to be killed, and that Amit was killed later on, I think that, to me, maybe not all of them, but a lot of them sure as hell seem dead to me, because they were nowhere to be heard from after the fact.
I guess. I mean, I don't know, because, like, with Amit...
But by the way, that doesn't mean there are more gods. Remember, there's still a whole bunch of gods that were imprisoned.
Yeah. I was going to say, with Amit specifically, though, they use a spell to bind both Harrow and Amit together into one being, I guess, into one form. And so that's why Amit technically is dead. With the other ones, though, I don't know how exactly that works. Because, again, they're avatars, It's not really like their body or anything like that. So, I mean, I don't know. Who knows? Again, future seasons, maybe we'll find out. But yeah, either way, though, those guys, they were dumb. So yeah, Harrow kills them. Layla, she's trying to look for Khonshu, getting his statue and all that. Harrow releases Amit, and again, the CGI, we know where the money went. I actually really like Amit's presence. Like, the voice actress was actually, like, really good. I liked Amit's voice. It sounded menacing. It was cool. Yeah. But also, just like our conversation, I like Amit was kind of like, your skills on balance, and Harold was just like, yeah, okay, oh well, that sucks, but I'll take my punishment then. I just found it curious that he was just still willing to die. Yeah, so then Layla lets go of Khonshu. He's like, hey, I need a new avatar. Do you want to be it? She's like, hell no. After what you did to Mark and Steven, no thanks. Go fuck yourself. Basically. Khonshu doesn't convince her anymore, so he just goes he just dips and starts fighting Amit on his own. He's not strong enough, so there's a lot of back and forth. He's clearly losing. I liked Khonshu's fighting style, I guess. My guess is like the reason he's able to teleport or fly, it's like maybe he's moving like a shadow or something, I guess. That's my guess.
Well, he's also a bird, right?
Oh, that's true. Yeah. Well, I'm dumb. Yeah, he's a bird.
No, you're right. I mean, it could be that too.
Yeah, it could be both. Yeah, that's interesting. But yeah, I liked his fighting style. I liked Amit. She uses her hair/tail. I don't know what it is exactly. I don't know. She looked cool. I like her design.
Well, she's a crocodile, isn't she?
Yeah, but like, it's just she has the head of a crocodile, but like her hair, I don't know if it's supposed to be like the rest of the body of a crocodile or. Right. But I mean, either way, though, it looked cool. Then it cuts to Mark and Steven, or Mark. He's in the field of reeds. He's at peace. All it is, it's like, you can stay here. Like, you'll be at peace forever. But Mark felt bad for leaving Steven behind, and he's just like, nah, I can't do that. So he goes back to.
He basically couldn't be at peace leaving Steven like that.
Mm-hmm. And you had a great moment. I actually really loved what he said here. It was so good.
Yeah, right? Oh, everything he said was perfect.
Yes. I can't remember all of it, but it was basically just, he's grateful for Steven being there. He took away the bad parts of his life, but he also loved that he always just saw the good in everything. He's so optimistic and all that. Even though he was just kind of like subconsciously created, if he felt real, Steven felt real to Mark, like his own person. Mm-hmm. And he missed him, and I loved it. It was, I think it might have been the last line, but he's like, "You are my one true superpower," or something like that. Like, to be able to create him, to make him feel some kind of hopefulness or kindness, and so it was great. And then as Mark was trying to sand himself, the doors, I don't know what they were called, these doors are next to them, start opening, and both Mark and Steve start turning back to normal. They're like, they're hugging each other, and they're like, "Yeah, you came back for me," and all that. And all of a sudden, this giant wave of sand comes towards them. Basically, like, they have to make it to the door, get swallowed. Mark, he has a limp, so they're kind of so they're going slow about it, which I don't remember him getting his leg broken. I'm guessing it must have been when they were attacked, but I was so confused for a second, like, okay, I guess. So they're almost to the door, but they weren't gonna make it, and then I loved it. That's how it comes in, like, he like, "On my way," basically riding the boat, and she crashes into the sand, kind of just like, I guess it leaves like enough gap for them, or it just slows it down enough for them to make it through the door. But yeah, I thought that was kind of badass for her. And so they make it to the door. They come back to life. Khonshu senses it, and he goes towards them. He does his whole little speech again. "Will you be the protector of the night?" And then they say yes. And then they're fully healed, and they're back in the costume. I remember my other nitpick. Fucking Mark's costume is still CGI. I feel like, because there were test footage, right, of a Mark of the costume, like practical costume. It was never CG, and they looked fine. I don't know.
Huh. That's interesting.
Yeah, like you see I guess the bandages or whatever, and I mean
they're not real.
And I mean, it looked fine. You could just, I don't know, it kind of looked like a jacket in a way, and so I don't know. Either way, it looked fine, but the CG, come on, don't use CG, please. It looked cool in real life. It looked practical and all that, and especially with the CG, they added like sharp pecs on his chest and all that, and I was like, I feel like that's a bit too exaggerated, but whatever. But yeah, again,
they can't help themselves.
I guess not. Oh my god! Especially because of in the final fight, Layla, she's using a practical costume and she looked badass. Like,
the thing is, like, even if it is practical, like they're so used to just replacing everything. Like, again, like, even if it was on set, they probably were like, it would actually be easier and maybe look better, quote unquote, if we just CG'd it. Okay, and they did it.
But it doesn't.
That's how
especially because you're on a show budget. Like, come on, just use practical.
Yeah, like, seriously, like, just use the fucking costume. Like, hello. Oh, well. You want to spend the fucking money to just make it look worse? Okay. I don't know what you achieve there. Anyway, but in this case, Steven and Mark were like, well, no, not so fast. We're not going to come back to you the way that it was. This is a one-time thing, and then after that, fuck off. And then Khonshu had no choice but to agree to that.
So, they agreed, and then... Actually, I like the conversation, though, because it was Mark coming out. It's like, oh, guess we're back, huh? And then Steven pops in and he's just like, no. This is going to be the new deal, buddy. It's like, I like it. He was then the one negotiating it. That was cool.
Right.
And so now they're wondering, like, how the heck are we going to make it to the pyramids or to Harrow? And he's just like, I'm still the god of the night. And he literally just turns day into night instantly. And he's going to send them flying. And then Steven was like, Mark, take over. I'm not doing this. And then he flies up and you see I
didn't know he could fly. I didn't know he could fly. I guess it makes sense because it's Khonshu, but yeah, I guess he can fly.
Yeah. But I guess it's only at night. I don't know. I guess maybe he's not full power in the daytime. That's my guess.
Maybe.
But this is a common thing in the comics that like whenever his cape like opens up or anything like that, it's always like in the shape of the moon, like in the full circle. And so you see that when he flies up and as he's flying away. It's just funny. I think we cut back to Layla, and one of the avatars is still alive, and she's asking them like, how do we stop him? What the fuck do we do? And he says, basically the way that they binded the gods to Shakti, they have to bind him to a living person. That's the only way to like truly stop them. But only
at
an
that
avatar
point,
can.
I already knew like what was going to be the answer. Oh, Harrow.
Yeah.
Because earlier on, I didn't even address it, but earlier on in the episode, or did you? I'm not even sure. Harrow or like what's her name? Amit chose Harrow to be her avatar.
Yeah.
So it made sense.
Yeah, but only an avatar can bind them, I guess, together. And so Layla calls on Tawaret. I find it so funny because she's like, Tawaret, are you there? And then the guy who just died, Tawaret possesses him, and the ear is Layla! He's just like, oh fuck. You can tell right away that she like blew her cover and all that. But
I mean, yeah.
I found it so funny. I don't know why. It's just she got so excited, but then also like the dude's mouth was full of blood. It just looked funny to me. Wow. And then it cuts to like the mercenaries, and like you can still hear Tawade. It's just like, I'm so glad you called back, and I'm like, shut up. And then that was basically Harrow's cue to like, all right, let's just get out of here.
Yeah, fuck this.
But I mean, he was gonna bring down the whole place with her in it, and so Layla agrees, and then now there's just like this back and forth between the two taking over. But she did pretty good in this. She was, Tawade in her mind was like messing her up. She's going like, oh god, this hurts, but she had to like calm herself, and then Tawade would take over, and she's just like, and then she mentions her dad, like, I'm so glad you're my avatar, we're gonna have so much fun. It's like, your dad would be proud. She's like, my dad? It's like, yeah, I met him before I took him to the Field of Reeds. And then the last thing she says is, I have a wonderful costume idea. I'm like, fuck yeah, I'm getting a costume.
That's great.
So then that's when Harrow, he's making it to the top of the pyramid. Basically, I guess, spreading the power of Amit's judgment, I guess you can say, to his followers. And so now all of his followers are just grabbing people's hands, Jonji them. If they die, they die. They live, cool. From a villain, that's actually pretty cool, I guess. Brings up the stakes. And then so as the souls, whoever died, like their souls gets eaten by Amit, and she's getting bigger and bigger. I'm like, oh shit, like how are they gonna stop that? I'm curious. That's when Mark shows up. They're at the pyramid, and then Mark and Harrow start fighting, which again, my complaint. I wish he would have had a costume. Would have been badass.
Right.
I feel like you gotta have a bit more action stuff between the two. If like maybe he had like some sort of mask just to kind of like get a stunt double in or something. I don't know. So yeah, they're flying around, and then as Mark started fighting Harrow, Khonshu shows up. He also gets big. This is the one fight I didn't expect. I didn't expect a giant fight.
Yeah, that
with
was
the gods.
like it didn't quite make sense, because like, okay, if the gods themselves are fighting in kaiju form, no less, what are the point of the avatars?
Well, I mean, if you notice though, like the way their avatars fight was going, kind of
mostly the same as it was.
Yeah, it basically sort of affected the fight between the gods, So like Mark, he's getting the edge over Harrow, and so will Khonshu, but then at the very end, Harrow was winning. He had a Mark on the floor, and then you saw that scene where Amit was like about to stab Khonshu, or was stabbing Khonshu with his staff and all that. So I guess, I don't know, maybe the way both fights go, that sort of creates the outcome of it. I don't know. I mean, I thought it was pretty cool. Healer.
I mean, kaiju stuff is always nice. And
yeah, it's always fun. Yeah. So then, yeah, again, it was just these little fights between them, and then that's when we get Layla again, and she's in full. She like breaks down a wall. She's in full costume, and she's kind of like, "Whoa, this is cool." Then she like puts her hands behind her back and like spreads them out. She has swords and wings.
Wow. Yeah.
Which is, I thought it was really cool. I like, even though it's like in your face, I still like the pose that she gave and all that. She's smiling and all that. It was cool. My thing, I wish there was just something a little bit different with her power set, just because, you know, it's Tawaret. She's the goddess of, like, I don't know, mothers or something, or motherhood,
mother and children.
Yeah, mother and children, birth, and all that. So I mean, I don't know what exactly you could what kind of power set you can create from that. But I don't know, just because, you know, Moon Knight has this little moon batarangs type of stuff. So I don't know. I mean, either way, I still loved it though. I love the wings that she can fly, and it uses it to deflect bullets and all that. It's still badass. So yeah, and then I actually really did like the fight scene. Layla and Mark meet up. He's just kind of like, he's happy to see her, but then Steven like shows up and he's just like, "Whoa, you look so good. What is that?" You know. And Steven starts fighting too. He's using his little stick thingies, I guess, attacking them. But yeah, for sure, the fight scenes were a lot better than that one episode. Fucking horrible editing, honestly. But yeah, they stepped it up in this, which is great. I really liked it. But still not as violent as I would have liked it to be, or as they promised it to be.
Yeah, that's the way to put it, as they promised it to be.
Yeah, for sure. Then at one point, Harold does get the upper hand. He's like about to kill Mark with the stick and all that. Then we get the whole, his eyes going to the back of his head, cuts of his face and all that, and then cut to everyone being dead, and we do see blood around them. Like, that's all they'll do, I guess, around the bodies.
At least they brought blood in the background. So
yeah. And then you know, Mark's just kind of like, "Steven, was that you?" And Steven's like, "Nah, God, nope, that's not me at all." Layla, she's kind of like shocked a bit. I don't know. I feel like she would have been a bit more shocked, just because
I think she just seems confused.
Yeah, I guess so. But yeah, they stopped Harrow. You know, he was knocked out, almost killed, but luckily Mark came back at the right moment, and Layla told them the plan to bind Amit with Harrow, and one thing I didn't mention, Amit and Khonshu, their discussion when fighting, I actually really liked it. It was just kind of like a little conversation. Amit trying to convince Khonshu to join her, going like, "Hey, I stopped bad guys too, you know." It's like, "Yeah, but you stopped them before they even make that choice of doing something bad. Like, I don't want to do that. Like, I just stopped bad guys." And so, I mean, it was just it was a pretty cool back and forth. Again, I really liked the voice actress for Amit. She was menacing in a way, and then just Khonshu is pretty cool. They bind him. Mark was about to kill him because Khonshu said, and he's just kind of like, "No, I don't want to do that." And he tells him, like, "If you want him dead, you do it yourself."
Yeah, absolutely. And Khonshu was like, "Okay," and they just left, right?
Yeah. Well, he released him of the Moon Knight. It was like flash of light. Yeah, quote unquote. This flash of light, and cuts back to nursing home, I guess, back in the office. And I was confused by this part. I don't know if you could explain it, but I guess were they trying to like confuse us and make us think that everything was fake or something, or
what next part when they go back to the ward?
Yeah.
I think I don't know. Ultimately, what that if that was like in. I think it was meant to telegraph that they flipped it around to make it seem that Harrow was the crazy one now. Maybe he was the one that was trapped and didn't know it. Because ultimately, later on, we realized that that's where they put Harrow in an institution. Mm-hmm. But then he wakes up. And I'm like, okay, I don't know. Maybe that was his inner like subconscious, like having a dream of like, you know, conquering the tribulations they had in the last episode or the last two episodes.
I mean, I thought that too. It's just it felt weird for me.
No, yeah,
I don't know. It should have cut that.
It's not something we needed to come back to. I think.
Not yeah. I don't think we needed to. Like, I feel like. If it was supposed to be a scene that, like, oh, they accepted themselves, you know, they're okay with having two subconscious, I feel like we already got that. So, when he got the Moon Knight back, you know, Mark comes out of the temple, and he's in the Moon Knight costume, and then all of a sudden, Steven pops up, and he's just making the deal with Khonshu. I was like, hell yeah, they're working together, you know, there's just constant back and forth between the two, and no debating of, like, who should take over or not, you know? And so...
No, I think you're right. It seemed off.
Yeah, it seemed off. I feel like you could have taken that out and actually have a conversation with Layla, or like have a scene where Steven's doing his regular stuff now. He gets another job or something. I don't know. Yeah. And then, so yeah, it was that little dream. He wakes up. He's back in his little home, but both Mark and Steven are talking to each other, you know. And yeah, it's basically how it started. He wakes up, gets out of bed, but forgets that he's tied up, falls down, and then that's it. The after credit scene, it was Harrow in that hospital. He gets taken back to his room, but quick. At first, I wasn't sure. At first, I did think it was Mark or Steven or Jake. But I wasn't sure just because he couldn't see his face. But then finally, we get the confirmation. Basically, the guy who took Harrow from the hospital takes him to the car. And inside the car, it's Khonshu in a suit.
right.
Like some mobster or something. It's just
literally. He definitely went over the top for that one. You got to commit, you know?
He's just kind of like, he just kind of goes, you thought you saw the end of me, huh? And everything. And it's just kind of like, it's like, you know, Mark thought I was just going to let him go that easily, but he's just too much fun to be around. And I thought that was like, oh, damn.
It's so fucked up.
Yeah, so I know. I really thought, you know, at the end they were going to get some kind of like friendship going on, but no, Khonshu's still kind of an asshole, just manipulating Mark and Steven. The only one he's working with is Jake. He was in the front seat driving, and then puts a window down, pulls a gun out, and kills Harrow and Amit. Actually, I don't know if you noticed, but like, I think it was Amit talking, not Harrow exactly. Just kind of like the way he moved. It wasn't how he usually moved and all that. And I don't know. I think it might have been like Amit talking to Khonshu in that moment.
Maybe. Maybe.
Yeah.
And I guess that sets up season 2 then, right? That's going to be a big part of the next season is this whole thing. Well, Khonshu's still around, and Khonshu still definitely has Jake. So I wonder what that's going to be like, Jake introducing himself to like Mark and Steven.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's the big question. For me, the other one is Layla still using Tawaret. I'm curious what exactly she would be doing as a superhero. That I'll be getting more into. Please put more episodes in the seasons. I feel like if you're gonna make Layla and Mark, both the main characters in a way, I feel like you're gonna need more episodes to really like give both of them an arc of something.
I've been telling you, man. I've been saying like that would help, I think, immensely. Like iron out a lot of the issues, but it doesn't seem like it's in the budget.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
I mean, in terms of the budget, I understand why they wouldn't put a lot in this one just because it's a new character. But so far, a lot of people seem to like it. I know there's still, I don't know what they've been saying about this last episode, but I know there are some people who are fans of the comics that were complaining about it. But from what my theory was off that Stephen was dead.
Almost immediately, right?
Yeah, basically. I was kind of sad about it, but at the same time, like, okay, we got Stephen back. That's cool. But I mean, but he's way more confident than he was in the first episode. So maybe, they can get the character that they wanted from the comics now. Or, they can still keep that going, bringing him up. So, I don't know. Hopefully the word of mouth can get the studio to go, okay, let's put some more money into this.
Yeah, overall, pretty good. Very much enjoyable. And I wonder how much we're going to have to wait. How long we'll wait until Moon Knight 2 comes out.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I got nothing else, you?
Nah.
All right, then we're going to go ahead and end it off here. Thank you, David, for being here. Thank you all for listening to our recaps. Again, a reminder to check out our other content here on Red Spotlight, not the least of which includes, of course, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Check all that out here under our spotlight. And until next time, we'll see you. Oh, no, until next time, we will see you. Next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.